If you are an NBA fan unfamiliar with the upcoming basketball crop, or you're the fan of one of these sorry organizations with a lottery pick in 2025 and want more information on the potential savior of your franchise, stay tuned. Because today we have a comprehensive breakdown of the very intriguing 2025 NBA draft class. In this video, we will be going over the top 14 prospects in the class, their pros and cons, projected role and best fits, their ceilings, their floors, medicals, and everything in between. So get your deodorant because today we are going to get very sweaty. Starting with the honorable mentions, let's just get straight into it. No strung out intro. The 17th, 16th, and 15th best prospects in order are Juan Asanuel, a stretch 4/5 from Georgia, Nolan Traore, an ultra athletic shifty guard from France, and Ben Saraf. Ben Saraf may come to a surprise to some as he's towards the bottom half in a lot of draft boards, but I was really impressed with his size, change of pace, finishing, and playmaking. So with those three out of the way, let's get straight into the list. The 14th player is one Jace Richardson. Jace Richardson is the son of NBA dunk contest legend Jason Richardson. He is a 6'2" point guard hailing from Denver, Colorado. He played high school basketball really all over the country, but eventually settled at Michigan State for his college campaign, where he averaged a very impressive 12.1 points per game, 3.3 rebounds, and 1.9 assists as a freshman before declaring for the NBA draft. Now, let's get into his pros and cons. The first pro for Jace Richardson is when watching him, he really seems like one of the highest floor players in the draft to me. I think I'd have him as maybe the second or third highest floor player. I really can't see a future where he's not at least an 8th or 9th man on an NBA playoff roster, and that's primarily because of the way he scores. He scored 12.1 points per game in only 25 minutes at Michigan State on elite efficiency, and all of that was just from being a cog in the system, so to speak. He wasn't really a on-ball playmaker per se. He was just a smart cutter, elite catch and shoot player. He moved very well off the ball, and honestly, that has me very excited for his future because that is most likely the role a lot of these prospects are going to be playing at the next level. Most of them are not going to be all-stars or superstars. Most of them are just going to be role players that have to fit in, and Jace Richardson has already proven, albeit at a lower level, that he has the skills to succeed in this role. He is also stronger than his height and weight would suggest. He was pretty good at taking contact on his drives. Because of that, he showed some potential to be a pretty decent slasher. He also showed some flashes of being a good pick and roll ball handler. And defensively, he is your typical shorter point guard pest. He was good on ball and off ball in that role. Honestly, I was just very surprised and impressed to see a game that was so sound and mature out of a 19-year-old. He's clearly been coached by people who know how to play as a role player in the NBA. And honestly, he's my top candidate for being a role player who has 15 years of consistent impact. His cons, though, as I'm sure you can guess by him being this low, is he has a pretty low ceiling, and that's mainly because of his height, weight, and the flashes he's displayed at a lower level. Even though he's stronger than his height and weight would suggest, he is still 6'2", 180 pounds. That is mouse in the house territory for the modern NBA. Also, this cog in the system element that he showed a affinity to at Michigan State, that also goes both ways. Yeah, he proved that he can be a good role player, but he also didn't show nearly as many flashes as the players above him did to be a true blue all-star, all-NBA level player. As I said, he showed some potential in the pick and roll. He showed some potential for playmaking and ball handling, but it's just not enough for me to really bet that that's a real possibility for him. And also, for his size, if you want him to be a true offensive creator, you'd like him to have a bit more craftiness and creation in the mid-range just to get his shot off when teams overplay him on the 3 or on the drive, and he just didn't show enough flashes at that for me as well. So for his ceiling, I got two fan favorites, Mike Conley and Kyle Lowry, two undersized PGs who weren't ultra athletic, never had super gaudy stats, but they both killed you for 15+ year careers by playing within their game on both sides of the court. For his floor, I have Monte Morris, a average backup level point guard who in the right situation can be very impactful. For his best fit, I think he could grow the most on a team that already has a good offensive system, but are a little light on guards so he can get some playing time early. The Cleveland Cavaliers seem like a good fit to me. Denver Nuggets would be a perfect fit, kind of piggybacking off that Monte Morris comparison. He could just blossom playing next to Nikola Jokic. And then I also have Orlando or the Houston Rockets written down, although they would both need better offensive systems to me for Jace Richardson to really thrive. Although they do really need a player like Jace Richardson that can make the offense go without really touching the ball. So yeah, love Jace Richardson. I think he'll be a really solid role player for years to come. But let's get on to the 13th best player on the Sweatshops draft board. At number 13, we have Nick Clifford. Nick Clifford is a 6'6" wing player. He was born and raised in Colorado, where he earned Colorado Gatorade Player of the Year as a senior in high school. He originally committed to the University of Colorado, where he played 3 years and averaged a pedestrian 5.4 points per game on sub 40% shooting from the field. After his junior year, though, he transferred to Colorado State and averaged 19 points per game, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists on elite efficiency in his COVID senior year, and led Colorado State to the second round of March Madness. So let's start with his pros, as we almost always do. He has elite mid-range creation tools, really has the type of arsenal you'd like to see out of an offensive cornerstone type player. I don't mean a first of the first options. For that, I mean more like a second or third option that you want doing some creation when your best player is out of the game. He's got a pretty standard frame for a wing, but is still the elitist of elite rebounders for his size. He's a really good on-ball shooter and a great scorer at all 3 levels. He's a good defender. Honestly, he just gives me a lot of vibes of being the Dalton Connect, Malcolm Brogdon type player of this draft, meaning that he's probably going to fall solely because of his age, and then because he's falling later into the draft, a good team is going to pick him up, and then he's going to perform pretty well right out of the box, and everyone is going to wonder, wait, how did we let him get so far down the draft board? So that's all his pros. Really good 3-and-D prospect with some offensive creation potential. His cons: the brother's old as dirt. He's almost older than me. He will turn 24 in his rookie season. On top of that, he's not quite as polished as you'd want out of a 23 turning 24-year-old rookie. He sometimes has a questionable feel for the game passing wise, and also there are some serious questions about his ability to play high-level competition. What do I mean by that? Well, he was pretty bad every year he was in the Pac-12 at Colorado, and honestly, pretty bad is kind of understating it. He was straight up awful. He didn't start popping off until he transferred to Colorado State in a much easier conference. And even then, he didn't really start dominating until his COVID senior season, where he was almost always the oldest, most developed guy on the court. Even in that season, when competition got tighter in March Madness, he folded. He averaged 17.5 points per game on 33% shooting from the field and 0% from 3. Let's compare that to one of the other older prospects I mentioned before, Dalton Connect, someone who started at a lower level of competition and dominated, then moved up to a higher level of competition and dominated immediately there too, and then also killed it in March Madness. I still have no idea how he fell to the Lakers, but you see, they're both older prospects, but Dalton Connect dominated at a lower level and then moved up to a higher level and still dominated. Nick Clifford played at a higher level and was frankly awful, moved to a lower level, dominated, and then when March Madness came around, he folded again. So he does have a lot of tools. With him, it's really just a question of, is his rise more due to his tools fully developing or due to the lower level of competition? If his tools really have developed this much, his ceiling is a DeMar DeRozan with 3-and-D capabilities. Like, I am not joking. His mid-range operation is so polished. If he can do the same thing at a higher level of play, I really think he can be a good third to second option in the NBA. His floor, though, is the worst of Kyle Kuzma, which is unplayable. I think his best fit would be a team that needs a 6-man role, just needs a good scoring punch off the bench. The Thunder, Orlando, Nuggets, Atlanta, Miami, Houston, really any team that is going to allow him to get valuable experience right away as being one of the components in an offense. So a good prospect, just a few questions about his level of competition, but if he can step up his game, he could really be something special. On to number 12. Kaman Malawach. Cayman Malawach is a 7'2" defensive stalwart from South Sudan. He did not start playing basketball until 13 years old, but once he did, he was obviously a natural at it, primarily because he was just bigger than all the other 13-year-olds. He eventually joined and excelled in NBA Academy Africa in Sali, Senegal. After that, he committed to Duke University, where he joined a couple other freshmen we will be talking about shortly, and averaged 8.6 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, and 1.3 blocks in 21.2 minutes. All right, let's get into his pros first. Offensively, everything boils down to he's good at being 7'2". Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Steven Adams made a whole career off that, and honestly, Rudy Gobert, the main reason he's not good offensively is because he's not good at just being 7'2". He's an elite screener and roller. He's a really good lob threat. He has flashes of a post hook, and while his shooting is by no means a sure thing, his free throw percentage and form show some potential of him being maybe a stretch 5. Defensively, though, is obviously where he shines. He's elite at defensive positioning for a wing. His frame is perfect for a defensive center. Wingspan, size, athleticism, and quickness too. While he is a little bit lumbering and can be exposed at times on the perimeter, I think he shows consistent flashes of good reps when he switches onto a perimeter playmaker. On top of all that, he started basketball late, so there is a decent chance that his learning curve is higher than someone like Jace, who's had his whole life training with elite trainers. So I really think Cayman Malawach's high is an elite defensive big, who's also a positive on the offensive end. His issue is, right now, he really has no offensive talent that you are 100% sure will even be usable at the next level. As I said before, there's potentially a post hook, there's potentially some three-pointer in there, but overall is just good at being huge. Everything else is just small flashes. Also, defensively, as I said before, he's a bit lumbering. Does that get exposed more at the next level with better, quicker shot creators? I don't think so, but there's still the potential of that. His biggest issue, though, is there's a lot of questions about his cardio. You may have been confused in the bio, hey, how is this dude so good and only played 21 minutes per game? You're 7'2" at the college level. You should be playing 35 minutes and averaging a double-double. Well, that, from what I've seen in my research, is mainly because of his cardio. Apparently, he threw up in a game based solely off his conditioning, and that was the main reason he was limited to 21 minutes per game. So he's got to work on that to really be a consistent impact player at the next level. His ceiling for me is Rudy Gobert that isn't an offensive liability. He really has all the tools to be a defensive machine and really be a good offensive weapon in the hands of a good playmaker. His floor, though, is Mo Bamba. To me, his best fit would be a team with playmakers that need a big defensive center. If he falls to Atlanta, that would be perfect. Clint Capella is honestly a decent, realistic comp for him. I also like him in Chicago. Also, a podcast I like, Club 520, they suggested the Spurs to trade down and pick him up, and I would not be mad at that at all. He wouldn't be pressured to play 30 minutes per game right out of the box, but there's also the potential of him and Wemby being the best defensive backcourt in the league. Any of those I think would be a good fit. Honestly, any team that needs a center and already has offensive playmakers, I think would be a great fit for him. But with that out of the way, let's go to number 11. At number 11, we have one Noah Essengwe. Noah Essengwe is a 6'9" athletic anomaly from Orleans, France. He worked his way up through the French circuit until he signed with Ratio Farm Ulm. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right at all. In the highest league in Germany, the BBL, where he averaged 10.9 points per game, 1.2 assists, and 5.1 rebounds before he declared for the draft. For his pros, we need to start off with his 99th percentile frame, athleticism, and hustle for a wing. He has the athletic potential to be an elite defensive stopper, the likes of Jonathan Isaac or Jaden McDaniels. And it's not just the athletic potential, he consistently translates that athletic potential to defensive prowess when he's on the court. He's not perfect yet by any means, but at this point, I legitimately feel good about him guarding NBA level players at every position out of the box and at least holding his own. He has great intensity. I love when you can see the intensity from prospects. Oftentimes, that's the best barometer for how players will translate at the next level if they have good intensity, and he's a great rebounder. Now, offensively, his game is a lot more raw, but he does have a pretty good feel for the game. He does make some solid passes out of the short roll and the post. Honestly, I think he would be pretty good off rip as the handoff man in a DHO offense. He also has some good finishing. He's got that acrobat badge potential. Now his cons are he's probably the rawest offensive player on this list outside of Cayman. His ball handling and shooting are only flashes at this point. There's nothing really there to give you any indication that it'll be even passable at the next level. Ceiling wise, to me, he's a non-injury prone Jonathan Isaac. That's Andre Kirilenko. Honestly, Andre Kirilenko is probably a better ceiling for him. Floor-wise, he's like a Derrick Jones Jr. that doesn't know what he needs to do on offense. Which is just to say for me, there's no way his defense doesn't translate at least a little bit to me. He's at the very least like an B to B plus level defender in the NBA. His whole career really hinges on what he can add on the offensive end. To me, his best fit is a young team with perimeter playmakers that can force feed him on offense while also allowing him to grow naturally and be a defensive star. Also a team with a light forward room so he can gain experience. All of these players in the bottom four, they really need to gain experience. So a team like the Jazz, a team like the Wizards, the Bulls, the Hornets, teams like that. So yeah, that's Noah Esengwe. Really like him as a prospect, but let's get into the top 10. Finally, starting off with Kasparis Jakušionis. Let's call him Casper the Friendly Ghost. Casper the Friendly Ghost is a 6'5" point guard from Lithuania. He made some noise in the EuroLeague, moving between FC Barcelona's youth and top team from the ages of 15 to 17. Then at age 18, he committed to playing for the Illinois Fighting Illini. Still the weakest sports team name ever. I behoove you to find someone even worse. But at Illinois, he put up 15, 5, and 6 as the Illini's primary ball handler. Starting with his pros, Casper has a lot of offensive creation potential. It all starts with his passing. You can tell he has that typical European passing vision. For a 19-year-old, he's very good at operating in the pick and roll. He can make every read out of it. He just needs a little bit more consistency. He's also a great read and react passer. He can just see something happening and then automatically react to it like a second nature. On top of this, he likely will be a very good shooter at the next level. You wouldn't guess that from his below average three-point percentage, but just watching him play, he's doing that 31% three-point percentage on extremely high difficulty. He takes a lot of highly contested shots off the dribble and takes a lot of them from the NBA 3. He also has pretty good shot form, and just as a side note, when I'm judging shot form, all I need, the shot needs to be quick and the shot needs to be smooth. I'm not judging the angle of the elbow because as of the last few years, there's been so many weird shot forms that people have just made work at the next level. So he has a very quick and smooth shot form, and he shot extremely well from the free throw line, which is one of the best indicators of people being good at shooting at the next level. He's also a good rebounder. He has the perfect frame for a modern PG, 6'5" with plus wingspan, and has the frame that can likely add a little bit more weight. His cons are he doesn't have a lot of moves to his game. He has a good step back. He has a good sidestep. I'm not looking for Kyrie. I just like for ball handlers to have a way to get off a clean shot in the mid-range, and he doesn't look like he has anything that will allow him to do that right now at the next level. Similarly, his handle isn't quite as tight as you'd want from your starting point guard. His athleticism to me is passable to be a rotation player, but will it limit him from being a bona fide starter on a playoff team? And while I think his shot will translate, ultimately 31.9% is 31.9%. You never know. Again, I would bet on it translating, but you never know. Kind of piggybacking off the athleticism comment, he will likely be a decent defender based on size and IQ, but I don't think he'll be a really good one. And he was a great passer. He did show really good passing vision, but for college, 3.7 turnovers is very alarming. So his ceiling, if everything goes right to me, is Tyrese Halliburton. He really reminds me a lot of Tyrese Halliburton, the way he passes and the way he scores. His floor, though, if the shot doesn't translate, if the athleticism is a bit more of a question than I thought, and if the turnovers really is an issue, is like an NBA ninth man. His best fit would be a team that could use a 6-man or just some perimeter creation. A Toronto, a Houston, and Orlando would all be good fits to me. So that's Kasparis at number 10. At number 9, we have one Con Knuppel. Con Knuppel is a 6'5" Milwaukeean guard. He was named Wisconsin Mr. Basketball as a senior in high school. He was a 5-star recruit, received offers from numerous colleges, but settled on Duke. With the aforementioned Kaman Malawach and one more player we will talk about in short notice. At Duke, he averaged 14 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists on 64% true shooting. Let's get the pros out of the way. The most obvious one, elite shooter. Virtually no way he's anything less than a rotational sharpshooter at the next level. Think, what's my boy's name? Joe, I don't know why I'm blanking. The dude that was on Cleveland, used to be on the Nets with KD and Kyrie. You know what I'm talking about. Every potential data point for predicting shot ability at the next level is elite. Shot form, shot difficulty, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage, off-ball movement. It's all there. I just don't see any way how it doesn't translate. Beyond shooting though, he's got a few more flashes of potentially being a good secondary option / playmaker in the NBA. He has some driving capability. He has a pretty good feel for the game. He's got a good frame for a 2-guard, and he's got good defensive instincts, technique, and effort. His cons though are that he's just not really elite at anything but shooting. To be fair, that is one of the most important things to be elite at in the modern NBA, but I still would like one more thing out of my top 10 prospect to really hang my hat on. Also, it's the typical white guard athleticism questions. Will it limit him at the next level? Will he be this and that? Blah, blah, blah. You already know. Ceiling, I think all-star level sharpshooter with secondary or tertiary playmaking capabilities is within his sights. To me though, if his shooting is the only thing that translates, his floor is what Eric Spoelstra thinks of Duncan Robinson. His best fit though, honestly, I think he'd fit pretty well on any team. Any team, especially any team in the top 10, needs shooting, and I think he can provide that. So really, any team that just wants a sure thing, I'd call up Concanable. At number 8, we have one Igor Demin. Igor is a 6'9" point guard, point forward type from Moscow, Russia. He spent some time moving up and down in the Real Madrid program before committing to the Mormons at BYU, where he averaged 10.6 points per game, 5.5 assists, and 3.9 rebounds. Pros, 6'9" point guard. Self-explanatory. Great size and playmaking. He can pass very well out of the pick and roll and out of the post. On top of his passing, he shows a lot of flashes of good shot creation and shooting. He has great moves and footwork in the mid-range, has a great shot form and rhythm. Honestly, I just love his whole mid-range process. I really think that can progress at the next level. He also has good defensive tools and instincts. His cons though, his quickness is a bit lacking, and there are no indicators other than shot form and confidence that his shooting will be good at the next level. He shot 27%. His free throw percentage wasn't that good. His ceiling, to me, I'm not a huge fan of this comparison, but with his mid-range operation, he kind of reminded me of a more playmaking oriented Paul George. As far as his ceiling, like the best case scenario for him. His floor though is someone that I know dearly as a Thunder fan, Aleksej Pokusevski. I think he'd be a good fit for teams that either don't have playmaking or their playmakers are getting up in age, so he won't be asked to do too much shot creation right away. I'd really like to see him head up a bench unit, so teams like the Suns, the Clippers, the Heat, I think he would be good fits on. But I am telling you right now, OKC loves this type of player. The same way the Sixers love dynamic scoring guards, the Thunder love playmaking wings with upside. Ousmane Dieng, Chet Holmgren, Aleksej Pokusevski, as we just mentioned, Josh Giddey, Nikola Topic, Aaron Wiggins, J-Dub, Dylan Jones. If Igor Demin falls to the Thunder's pick or he falls past 8, the Thunder will get him, and if he is not available, I would bet a lot of money that they pick up Ben Saraf. That's just me speaking as a Thunder fan. I'm not even saying that I think he'll be great. I am just saying this is the exact type of player the Thunder love. At number 7, we probably have my biggest hot take of this NBA draft board, and that's VJ Edgecombe. So Valdez Edgecombe Jr., or VJ, is a 6'5" athletic freak from Bimini, Bahamas. He lived in Bimini up until the 9th grade when he and his family immigrated to the US. He made a name for himself playing basketball in Florida and New York, eventually becoming a 5-star consensus top 5 recruit in his senior year and committing to Baylor University, where he averaged an impressive 15 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, 3.2 assists, and 2.1 steals, while also leading Baylor to the round of 32 again as a freshman. Now let's get his pros out of the way before we get into why I have him significantly lower than a lot of other draft boards. The pros, the same thing we all see: elite athlete and defensive prospect. He's potentially the best of both in the draft. I would probably give it to Noah Esengwe, but he is right there with him. On top of the defense, he's a pretty good shooter for an athletic slasher type prospect. He honestly shoots a surprising amount of off-ball screen threes for a person in this type of archetype, and he's pretty good at them too. He's a talented finisher as well. He's a pretty good passer. Honestly, to me, he's another super high floor player. He's virtually guaranteed to be a good defender, and you can also realistically bet on him being a good three-point shooter at the next level. I can definitely see shades of the superstar in him that pretty much everyone else sees. I'm sure you can look at any other draft board and see him at worst the fourth best player in the draft. To me, his cons though are just, I'm a little bit worried about his ball handling. His handle is certainly not on the level of an on-ball NBA creator. Watching him, it always gave me the impression that he's mainly just overpowering people with his next level athleticism. And while he'll definitely be a really good athlete in the NBA, I don't know if it'll be enough to overcome his lack of ball handling. He doesn't have a great change of pace. He's quick from 0 to 100%, but then he's 100% from the whole drive. He doesn't have a lot of that SGA-esque start and stop ability. And also his mid-range footwork and moves leaves a little bit to be desired. Now, obviously he can work on all these things, but I don't know, with the recent trend of athletic scoring guards taking a bit longer to get acclimated to the NBA, if they do at all, I don't know. I'm just a little bit worried on betting on him to be this Anthony Edwards type shot creator, and that is the ceiling I have for him. If he does develop his ball handling, his ball control, and his moves in the mid-range, his stop and start ability, I mean, he's got Anthony Edwards tools. It's just I didn't really see enough of those flashes in college to really bet on them progressing at the next level. His floor though is Chris Dunn, and that's like worst case scenario. Like if his shot doesn't progress at all and his defense is the only thing that translates, I still think he'll be a pretty good role player at the next level. To me, his best fit would be a team that has shown evidence to develop players into good three-point shooters and ball handlers, a team that's going to allow him to develop into a decent on-ball player, and a team that already has a primary playmaker that he can work off of as his play develops. Also a team that needs really good defense. My pipe dream would be the Nuggets. He would be like another Christian Braun, but with a higher ceiling. Like I can just imagine him fitting perfectly next to Jokic throwing him lobs on the backdoor cut, and him spacing the floor a little bit better than Christian Braun would. That's obviously a pipe dream. The Nuggets would have to give up a lot to trade up high enough to draft VJ. Utah would be a more realistic good fit. Charlotte too. But yeah, I know I have VJ lower than most. That's not an indictment on him. I'm really seeing all the same. Like if you look through any other draft profile, they will say the same pros and cons as I do. I'm just a little bit more skeptical that those cons will develop into pros for him. But still, think he's a really good player. I think he's a high floor, and he does have all-star, all-NBA potential. On to the next player, though. At number 6, we have one Derek Queen, the 6'10" big man born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. He is indeed from Baltimore. He spent a few years in Montverde, but eventually came back to Maryland for college to help lead the team to the Sweet 16 of March Madness while averaging an ultra impressive 16-9-2 with 2.2 stocks. Now, please know that me ranking Derek Queen this low is a supreme size of my objectivity, because Derek Queen is by far my favorite prospect in this draft. He's the first American-born black center in the mold of Jokic, Şengün, Sabonis. His on-ball creation is elite for a big. Point blank. His post game, great. Elite dribble moves for a big man. Top of the line quickness again for a big man. And for anyone in the draft, probably any college player I've watched, some of the best footwork I've seen, especially from a freshman. Just watching this man get a shot off in the mid-range is pure poetry. On top of his shot creation, his playmaking is pretty good. I wouldn't say he's an elite level playmaker the likes of Jokic or Sabonis. He's not a read and react player like Kasparas Yakushonis. To me, he's more of a see pass, make pass type of player. He's still really good at that, but I just don't see high level playmaker in his future. Still, with his level of shot creation combined with just being a good playmaker, he's got a sky-high ceiling. Unfortunately though, he's held back a little bit by his size. He's a bit of a tweener. He's got great quickness for a center, but is a bit slow-footed for a wing. He's a bit too undersized and vertically deficient for me to feel comfortable with him as a full-time center defensively though. If he were like 1 or 2 inches taller or had like 4 or 5 more inches on his vertical, he would probably be in my top 3 of this draft. But at his current size and athleticism, I just don't know how well his game will translate at the next level when he's either playing against 6'11" to 7-footers or guys his size but with 99th percentile athleticism. On top of that, he has some flashes of shooting, but you really have no idea if he's got any type of chance of getting a real 3-point shot. His ceiling to me is Alperen Şengün or Domantas Sabonis' ceiling. His floor to me though is Christian Wood, someone that is gonna trick a lot of players if he gets minutes on a bad team and averages like 18 a game, but when he gets to a good team, he just can't impact winning the way you would think. To me, his best fit would be a team that already has a good defensive structure, but could use an interior scoring punch. Also, I think even more than that, I think he would fit best with a team with a big man that can lock down the paint, but operates on the perimeter more offensively. Think of a Victor Wembanyama or Chet Holmgren. Because of that, I think the Spurs and the Thunder would be very interesting picks for him. They both have guys that can cover for him a little bit defensively, but also allow him to operate in the paint with a lot of space offensively. But honestly, most of the teams that are around the area where he should get picked look like a pretty good fit to me. At number 5, we have one Jeremiah Fears. Jeremiah Fears was born and raised in a small suburb of Chicago called Joliet. I actually went on a work trip there one time. Did not enjoy my stay, but he played basketball in Joliet up until his junior year, but transferred to a prep school in Arizona in his senior year. He was probably the least recruited player out of the top 10. He was ranked anywhere from 60th to 100th in his class, but he proved the recruiters wrong, eventually committing to Oklahoma, where he averaged a very respectable 17, 4, and 4. Jeremiah Fears' pros are very easy to see when you watch him. He has prototypical size for a modern point guard, 6'4" with a good frame. He's the best slasher in the draft. I don't know if he's quite as athletic as VJ, but he has much better ball handling as of now and comparable finishing. And also, even though I'm not sure he's as athletic as VJ, he probably has the best first step in this draft. He's not just a slasher though. To me, he has good mid-range footwork and shows a lot of potential in that area. He's comfortable in pick and roll operation. He's got some pretty good playmaking chops. He's got good on-ball and off-ball defense and reportedly has a great work ethic and intensity, which, as you know, I love. His cons though are mainly just shooting related. His percentage is questionable to say the least. That is kind of in the same vein as Kasparis. I wouldn't say he's nearly as good a shooter as Kasparis, but similarly, his shot difficulty was very high. His form and free throw percentage looked good, so there is a decent chance that it translates, but again, the 3-point percentage suggests otherwise. Honestly though, that's really the only thing. He would probably be like my number 3 or 2, but honestly, this archetype has just killed me in the past. Like, I was falling head over heels for Scoot Henderson a few years ago. I was falling head over heels over Dennis Smith Jr. I definitely participated in talking some crazy shit to the New York Knicks for passing him up, but man, they both just haven't translated. Obviously, Scoot Henderson still has a chance, and Jeremiah Fears has a few things that I don't think Scoot or Dennis Smith Jr. had in college and in the G League. Mainly a little bit more size and I think a little bit more tools in the mid-range, but still, I've been hurt one too many times. I'm a little bit more cautious on this archetype, similar to VJ. But if everything works out, to me, his ceiling is De'Aaron Fox with better playmaking. His floor, though, is the aforementioned Dennis Smith Jr. To me, his best fit is going to be a team that is going to let him get reps as a primary playmaker right away. Also, a team with some pretty good spacing. Honestly, wouldn't mind him with any team in the top 10. The Raptors would be interesting. I would also be interested with the Hornets drafting him. Maybe pushing LaMelo to a more bona fide 2-guard role. I would be very intrigued by that. But yeah, Jeremiah Fears at 5, really good athletic slasher prospect. But let's get into number 4 with the ultra polarizing Arius Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey is a 6'10" small forward born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He started playing high school basketball in Tennessee, but spent his last 2 seasons playing in Georgia, where he averaged a comical 32.5 points, 15.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 2.4 blocks per game in his final year. What the hell? He was still only the consensus second best player in the draft. Again, we'll get to the first shortly. And eventually committed to Rutgers University, where he averaged 17.6 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, 1.3 assists, and 1.3 blocks. What's funny is that's a really impressive stat line, but if you compare that to his high school stats, he literally just cut everything in half, which I don't know, that's just funny to me. But his pros: elite, 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 elite shot taker and maker. Footwork and shot making in the mid-range are top of the class. 3-point shot looks like it will translate despite the subpar, mediocre 3-point percentage. Again, tough difficulty, good free throw percentage, good shot form. But he's also got a pretty good post repertoire for a 19-year-old. He has a good blend of finesse and power in the mid-range. He doesn't always try to be pretty all the time with his post fades. He's got a good post hook too. On top of that, athletically, he's one of the quickest 6'10" plus players I've ever seen with or without the ball in his hands. This is where I do see the KD comparisons, because the thing with KD is, yes, elite shot taking, elite shot making, beautiful in the mid-range, but KD is a 7-footer that looks like a 6'7" shooting guard with the ball in his hands. He is ultra athletic. He doesn't get enough credit for how athletic he is, and Ace is the first person I've seen in a while that looks like he potentially has that same type of athleticism. And just to be sure, I went back and watched the most recent realistic Kevin Durant comparison when he was in college, which was MPJ. And yeah, Ace's movement is just different.
What's up, y'all? Editing Sweatshop here. So while editing this video, I realized I forgot a really famous Kevin Durant comparison when he was coming out of college, Brandon Ingram. So I went back and watched his tape, a few of his highlights, and I do see a much closer comparison between Brandon Ingram's quickness and athleticism and Ace Bailey's. So I don't talk about it a lot here, but Ace Bailey to Brandon Ingram, I think that's a decent realistic comparison for where he could end up. I would still give the edge to Ace Bailey in terms of just athleticism, but I do think Brandon Ingram and he are a lot closer than him and MPJ.
Continuing with the Kevin Durant comparison, he's also got prime Kevin Durant defensive potential. He's a good and switchable on-ball defender with almost elite rim protection, a good secondary rim protector, just as KD was when he was in Golden State. On top of that, he's got the intangibles, great intensity, and he's a good rebounder for his position. His cons, though, the things that have me a little bit lower on him than the consensus, is defensively, he's not as consistent as you'd like. His handle isn't quite as tight as you'd like from a projected #1 scorer. And most of all, he suffers from that MPJ-itis. Arius, the buck stops here, Bailey. Arius, it's me versus 9 other guys, Bailey. Arius, the shot is already in the air, Bailey. He has more games with 0 assists than games with 3 or more assists. That is no joke. Now, I do want to be fair. KD did average less assists, but he also did that by putting up one of the best college scoring seasons of all time as a freshman in a much tougher conference, also led his team to the March Madness tournament. Ace had a great scoring season. Obviously, I'm comparing him to literally a top 2 or 3 best scorer of all time. He had a great scoring season, but if you're going to average that few assists, I need to see 20 plus points per game, and I need to see your team winning. I saw neither. So his ceiling is realistically KD to me. I think this is the first player I've seen, including MPJ, that has all the tools to be the otherworldly shot taker and maker that Kevin Durant is. His ceiling is KD, but if the intangibles, if the mental doesn't translate, if the assists are a bit more of a red flag than most people, including me, are giving it credit for, if he really isn't that great of a passer, his floor is like Kevin Knox or the worst of MPJ. To me, his best fit would be a team with a good offensive structure that won't just let him do whatever he wants. Send him to the Sixers, let him hibernate for a little bit behind Paul George, maybe even take his spot if when Paul George gets injured in his second year in Philadelphia, sent him to hibernate in San Antonio, which has a pretty good organizational structure already. Honestly, I could convince myself really any team in the top 10, just do not send him to Charlotte. They're too unserious to me to get Ace Bailey right now. I need him to go on a team with some structure. I do not think Charlotte is that. At number 3, we have Trey Johnson. Richard Earl III, or Trey, is a 6'6" two guard from Dallas, Texas. He made a big name for himself in the Dallas and Missouri, my home state, basketball circuits, eventually becoming a 5-star recruit, a McDonald's All-American, and the consensus 5th best recruit in the class. After his senior year in high school, he committed to the University of Texas, where he averaged nearly 20 points per game, 3.1 rebounds, 2.7 assists on nearly 40% three-point shooting. Pros. In my opinion, this is the best shooter in the draft. Khan is probably the best off-ball standstill shooter. If the two went against each other in a all-star three-point competition, I probably would take Khan, but when you incorporate everything else that's involved in shooting, the off-balance shots, the movement shots, the off-screen shots, I would take Trey. Those off-balance JJ Redick type shots are probably his biggest asset right now. And that's how he's immediately going to be a good starter in the NBA. On top of being a really good shooter, he's also pretty good with the ball in his hands. He shows a lot of potential to be more than just a three-point shooter. Obviously, that's why I have him this high. He's got good mid-range footwork, a good sidestep and step back, and when he does attack on ball, he makes very quick, decisive moves. When watching him, it rarely ever felt like he was pounding the ball. This will allow him to gain a lot of on-ball experience in the NBA without hijacking an offense, which is honestly the best way for a young player to gain a lot of really good high-level experience very quickly. He has a great playmaking ability when he wants to. He has the prototypical two-guard size and athleticism to be good in the NBA, and he has some defensive flashes. Other than our number 1 player, which again we'll get to shortly, he's got the best mix of floor and ceiling in the draft to me. I see no way he's anything less than an 8th or 7th man on an NBA roster, but I also do see a realistic path to him being an all-NBA level player. His cons are a few, but they could hold him back from being the aforementioned all-NBA level player that I think he can be. Number 1, he's a bit too scoring minded. He could stand to have a better balance of scoring and playmaking, and then also his defensive impact was far from consistent. At his ceiling, I've got 2 different kind of paths. If he just stays at what he's elite at right now and really just perfects it, I think Klay Thompson is a realistic ceiling for him. But another player that got compared to Klay Thompson coming out of the draft, someone who did come out as just a shooter, but he did show flashes of having more to his game at the lower level, one Devin Booker. I think Devin Booker is a really good comparison for him. His floor though is like, I don't know, kind of similar to what I said for Kasparis, like a 7th or 8th man, like a good shooter off the bench. Grayson Allen, maybe. I think that's a decent comparison. To me, his best fit would be on a team that allows their young players to ride through the highs and the lows. A team that has a lot of off-ball movement to take advantage of maybe his biggest tool right now, his off-balance threes. Also a team that emphasizes defense to get him more focused on that end of the court and really tap into all his potential. To me, a pipe dream would be the Houston Rockets. He probably won't fall this far, and also Houston kind of has a backup of wing players, but man, putting him in an Ime Udoka defense, forcing him to really tap into his defensive potential, and then also kind of forcing Ime Udoka to implement more offensive ball movement, I think he would be a weapon on this team. Another pipe dream, the Nuggets and Warriors, 2 teams that emphasize defense, even though the Nuggets don't really have good defensive personnel, and require a lot of off-ball movement for their players, which Trey Johnson would fit in perfectly. Obviously, he's probably not going to fall that far though. I think the Sixers would be another good fit. Honestly, any guard I think would be a good fit on the Sixers. They're just so good at developing scoring guards. It's insane. Anyone else in the top 10 would be cool though. At number 2, we have one Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper is the son of former NBA All-Star Ron Harper. He's a 6'5" point guard prospect born and raised in New Jersey. Harper has never really left New Jersey. He made a name for himself at Don Bosco Prep, a preparatory high school where he became the consensus 3rd ranked prospect in his class. Even when it was time to choose a college, he stayed local and chose to go to Rutgers University with fellow top 3 recruit Ace Bailey. At Rutgers, he averaged 19.4 points per game, 4.4 rebounds, 4 assists on 48% field goal percentage and 33% from 3. His pros, he's a great all-around point guard prospect. Elite size and strength for the position, especially as a 19-year-old. He's got pretty good athleticism and quickness. He's a pretty good shot creator, shooting, handling, good playmaker. I see a lot of people compare him to Brunson and Cunningham, and I do see it very well. He's a very cerebral player. He's very good at using strength in his angles to create his own shot. Honestly, from what I remember, his stats are very similar to Cade's when he was in college. And yeah, I just think if you draft this player, he's got a really good chance to be an all-star level point guard. His cons are he's a little bit streaky. His handle could use some improvement to be the point guard you want him to be as a number 2 pick. Also, his only real way of separation at the NBA level is strength, and all the other like point guard stuff, the handle, quickness, change of direction. He doesn't really have the elite athletic ability of like Jeremiah Fears or VJ Edgecombe. He has good athletic ability, but it's not going to be enough for him to purely separate off of that. So yeah, all of his skills are good now. They could use some work for him to be truly great. And then also, I don't like to hold it against him because I think winning at the college level can be a bit overrated, but he was with another top 5 recruit and his team did not win a lot. So I don't know, that's just a small red flag for me. To me, I think his ceiling is the ceiling of Cade Cunningham's. Not Cade Cunningham right now, but Cade Cunningham's ceiling, which is a top 10 MVP candidate level player. His floor though is, I don't think his floor is quite as high as everyone else's, where guaranteed to be a good role player. I do see a way where he just doesn't translate at all and he's not in the league. But yeah, I just think his ceiling is a lot higher and he's much more probable to reach his ceiling than pretty much all the players below him. His best fit would really be any team that needs to upgrade at 1, teams that have shown an ability to help prospects put on weight and increase a handle. Also, I'd like a team that already has a franchise big, as Dylan will probably need a lot of pick and rolls to start to get open consistently at an NBA level. I do think he'll develop into a good, just pure shot creator eventually, but right out of the box, I do think he's going to need a lot of screens to operate on the offensive end. Again, honestly, this sounds a lot like the Sixers. I think the Sixers are the perfect fit for him. Nets and also Utah, I think would be good fits as well. And finally, we have the Bella the Ball, one Cooper Flagg. But Cooper's a 6'7" to 6'9" wing prospect from Newport, Maine. Mr. Maine, transferred to Montverde, #1 recruit. Came into Duke and killed it as a freshman with Con Knuppel and Cayman Malawach. Helped lead the team to the Final Four, averaged like 26-4, I can't remember, 26-3, something like that. I don't know. Let me start with this cons because this video was framed in a way where I'm a little bit more negative on Cooper Flagg than most. It's not super negative. I just don't see the generational prospect others see. To me, a generational prospect has one of 2 things, or maybe even both. 100th percentile athleticism, or they have a trait that they're already 95th percentile in the league. I don't really see either of those from Cooper Flagg. He's really good in a lot of areas, but not great. And honestly, I don't see a lot of areas for massive improvement. And athletically, he's good, but he's not as quick of a wing as like a Ace Bailey. He's got good defense, but it's hard to have an elite impact defensively if you're not a big man in the NBA. He's a good shooter, but obviously not on the levels of Con Knuppel or Trey Johnson. He's got a decent handle, but not enough for me to bet on him being a really good on-ball creator at the next level. Again, we'll get into it later. I think he's good. I think as far as ceilings go, I think he's the standard ceiling of a #1 overall pick, like an Anthony Edwards or a Cade Cunningham, Paolo Banchero. I think he's got a chance to be like the 5th to 10th best player in the NBA, but I don't think he's on the level of like a LeBron, a Zion, a Victor Wembanyama. As far as prospect goes, obviously I think he's going to be better than Zion. But that's his cons out of the way, which is really just, I don't think he's generational. As far as his pros go, I think he's the highest floor player I've ever seen. And I've been talking about that a lot between the Edgecombes and the Trey Johnsons and the Jace Richardsons, but I'm not just talking about in this draft. Cooper Flagg is the highest floor player I've ever seen. And I guess, does that make him generational? I don't know. Does the guarantee that you're not going to be bad make you generational? I don't think so. You may think so, but whatever. It's not just that he's not bad at anything, as I alluded to before. It's that he's solid to really good at everything. He's got good size for a wing. He's a good playmaker. He's got good defensive and offensive instincts, good shooting, good finishing, good ball handling. I just see no way he's not a good starter in the NBA. Maybe right away. He's a really good all-around prospect. He is #1 with the bullets. To me personally, I just think his ceiling is pretty average for a number 1 pick. So I think the generational talent talk is a bit too rich for me. His ceiling, to me, he reminds me a lot of Paolo and Franz. So I think his ceiling is the ceiling of Paolo and Franz. So like Paolo and Franz's best case scenario, if their shots develop, if they marry their playmaking and shot creation a little better, like he's the top 5, top 10 player in the league version of Paolo and Franz Wagner. His floor to me is like Portland Trailblazers Nicholas Batum, which is still a really good role player, one of the best role players in the league at the time. To me, his best fit would be a team that really needs a wing player and has a set offensive system. I think he would do well to start in a role player role and not go into a team that he's force fed right away. So honestly, Dallas is kind of the perfect fit for that. Also San Antonio, the Sixers, kind of depending on if Joel Embiid is going to be healthy, which he's probably not going to be. But yeah, any of those top 3 teams, obviously he's probably going to Dallas, but any of those top 3 teams I think would be superb fits for Cooper. So yeah, that's my draft board for the 2025 NBA draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching this behemoth of the video. I am seeing an hour and 20 on the recording. Goodness gracious, this is going to be very fun to edit. But with that, thank you ladies and gentlemen for watching all the way through. We greatly appreciate it. If you enjoy this content, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Drop a player down in the comment section below that you want me to research a little bit more that wasn't mentioned in this video. And I'll see if I do a sleepers video maybe a little bit after the draft. So yeah, like, subscribe, comment, share the video with a friend, and as always, stay sweaty, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.